All right, I'm going to teach you how to very quickly crop, rotate, change the intensity of your image, and then get the file size ready so that you can put these images online. All right, so the first thing you're going to do is if you have major problems with the orientation of your picture, if it's like twisted hugely, use this first tool, which is a selecting tool. Make sure this transform controls is showing here, and you can rotate your picture. Oops. All right, if it's telling me my layer is locked, if I double click on it and I say OK, what that does is it turns it into a layer. So now I can actually rotate the layer freely. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate this a little bit, and I'm just going to try to make it so that it's up. I mean, obviously you can rotate this thing all the way around however you want to do it. Don't worry about if it's vertical or horizontal right now. We can always rotate the whole thing. I'm going to say OK, so I have to hit this little check mark up here, and that just took my command there. If I want to, I can go to image rotation, and I can do like a 90-degree here, and that's if I took my picture sideways and I want to straighten it out. You can also rotate it that way, but my picture is just fine the way it is. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to step a little bit closer, so you can use the zooming tool. I just use the key command, command plus and command minus. That command minus and command plus zooms in and out. Those are just hidden under view here, I think. Yeah, zoom in and zoom out, command plus and command minus. Just so I can see what I'm doing. All right, so now I'm going to do some fine tuning here. Now you'll notice that sometimes there's a little bit of a weird warped perspective on your picture. It seems smaller at the bottom and wider at the top, and that's a distortion that's created by the camera if you're not directly in front of your picture. No problem. We're going to go to our fifth tool down here, which is our cropping tool, and I'm just going to draw a box. I'm not going to worry about it right now. It's fine. I'm going to go in and make some adjustments. I'm going to make sure that this perspective button is activated on my preferences bar up here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag these points. Look, I can do this individually here like this. All right, now the AP people don't want to see this white border on here. They don't want to see all that stuff. They just want to see the image. So I'm going to crop right to the edge here. All right, and if you have created a border, that's great because now you can crop the pins right out. There are ways to heal out those brushes or those pins and all that stuff if they're actually on your image, and we can talk about that later. But this is a great reason that you should always put a border or margin around there. All right, I'm going to hit my check mark again, and ba-bam, look at that. It crops it right to the edge and it gets rid of everything. If there's still some bits in here, again, command to zoom in. If I hold down the space bar, I can use a little hand here and it moves around. You know, if I still see some corners on here and some things I want to get rid of, you know, I might just ever so slightly, you know, just crop this thing in just a little bit so I get rid of some of that outside edge, and I'm going to hit check mark again. There we go, it's nice and clean. At this point, the image looks pretty good, but honestly, there's a way to tell, you know, by looking at this on the computer screen, you want this thing to be, for lack of a better term, you want it to be sort of juicy, right? You know, you want the colors to really sort of pop off the page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments, and I'm going to go to Levels, and I'm going to look at my levels here. All right, and this is a representation of the blacks, whites, and grays in my picture, and you can see that I'm missing a bunch here at the beginning. Auto button, and what the auto button does, why you can see a huge change there, is it evenly distributes that all the way across here from black to white. Now the only problem with that is, I mean, this is really super harsh, and maybe it's a little bit harsher than I'd like, so I want to turn that down. So if I hold down the Option key on my keyboard, you can see that it resets, it turns cancel to reset. I'm going to hold it down, I'm going to hit reset. So it's sending me back to the beginning. And what I'm going to actually do on my own is I'm just going to slide this to the left and to the right where this like mountain here, the beginning and the end of this mountain. All right, and there you can see, here's my preview button. This is before and this is after. Right, a huge difference, right? The problem with the auto also is it sometimes adjusts the color, which I don't necessarily like. So you can tinker with this a little bit. You know, if your drawing is a little more subtle. For the most part, I leave the middle one alone, you know, but if you do want to bring over your contrast a little bit more to the right, you can adjust that as well. Again, here's the preview off, here's the preview on. Much, much better. I'm going to hit OK, and I'm good to go. Look at that. It looks brilliant, right? Then the last thing I need to do is I need to adjust the image size. Now, with my camera, I'm taking the most high-quality image that I can. All right, so I want to make sure all the settings of my camera are capturing the most pixels possible. But when I put this on the computer, I want to cut those pixels down because the file size is going to be huge. You can see here it's actually like 20, almost 26 inches across, which is way too big for this computer screen. So again, I'm going to go to Image, and I'm going to Image Size. I'm going to look at my image size here, and what I want to pay attention to is two things. The first thing is my resolution. I want to make sure that it says 72 down here. So if it doesn't say 72, change that to 72. Here's my pixels, my image size, which is 12 megabytes. What you want to do is you want to make sure that, and again, this doesn't have to necessarily make sense to you, but really you just have to sort of parrot this information. Just do what I do. Is look at these two numbers, and whatever number is the tallest number, the largest number rather, change it to 1200. All right, and you can see here, now it's 3.15 megabytes. If it still doesn't quite break that 3 megabyte or megabytes mark, let's make it 1100. There we go. So now it's 2.65. So let's say somewhere around 1100 should be your widest pixel dimension. Again, after you set your resolution to 72. All right, so I'm going to say OK. I get a little concerned because it looks like it shrunk, but honestly, it's just the computer doing that. If I go Command plus again, I can still get in fairly close to see this thing at a good resolution. That's all I got to do. Then I'm going to go to File. I'm going to say Save As. Okay, you always want to save a copy. You want to keep your original files that you can. I'm going to change this to JPEG. All right, I want to make sure it's a JPEG because you cannot upload a Photoshop document. I'm going to call it Sunset 1, whatever you want to call it, Final, and I'm going to save it back into my folder, save like so. Maximum quality is fine on your JPEG. Hit OK. It's actually going to put a little bit more compression on it as well. And you're good to go. All right, so here you can see it's still like 11.5 by 15 inches, so it's still even large enough to print. And I'm ready to go. And if I want to open up, let me open up my recent here. I'll just do a little side-by-side comparison here. Oops, that's the wrong one. Oh well. Oh, because it's still keeping it over here. All right, so then that's all you got to do. So then what you would do is you would close this picture out. Oops. You close this picture out, and I'd be good to go. All right, I said don't save because I have my Sunset Final down here. You can see it's under a different name. So now if I go back and open up this one here, see I still have my original. So here's the original, and then here's the new version. And this would be the version that I would upload to Tumblr. I could upload to my AP portfolio. I could use for all sorts of display purposes. Again, this picture is just slightly out of focus. It's very important that when you take your pictures, you're using a tripod and you have your pictures focused.